coming to our quarterly meeting, courtesy of our Toronto Police Service, 51 Division. We are your Regent Park neighborhood community officers. We're dedicated to Regent Park only, and we have our Sergeant Boyko here. I'm going to do the introduction, sitting to my right. He's our immediate supervisor for our Regent Park. And to my left, my partner, Mircea Biga. We've been together for better part of a whole last decade here, basically from the moment the Neighborhood Community Officer Program started. And tonight we have a very special guest coming from Crime Stoppers. We have Detective Madramootoo here coming from headquarters. They operate from there, this Crime Stoppers. So they're going to do a very good presentation. And I know we've talked about Crime Stoppers in the past, and we honestly don't know exactly how they operate from inside out. So rather than us talking about it, we brought the boss of Crime Stoppers here to actually go ahead and do a quick presentation. And then what we can do is whenever you guys have a question, you can put your hands up, but we'd rather keep all the questions at the end so we can address them appropriately. What we'll do is we'll start with our PowerPoint. What we're going to do is we're going to go over some of our crime stats that we've had in the past year to just talk about what's happened in Regent Park. And then followed by that, we can do some Q&A, and then follow that, we can do our Crime Stopper presentation. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to talk a little bit about stats here. As you can see on the display, it's not much to say. Pretty much every major indicator saw an increase since last year, except break and enter. Especially robbery and assault, there has like a great increase. The good thing about that is that we're able to arrest a lot of people who committed some of these offenses. I'm gonna, whoever wants to have this, you guys can make a request to Toronto Community Housing. They have the PowerPoint, so you can look in detail. I'm not gonna go over. Each slide has one major crime indicator, for example, robberies or assaults, and pretty much talks about like what time of the day there are more assaults, what time of the day is more robberies, what month from January to May, what day of the week, more Saturday, more Monday, whatever. All those, I don't think it's appropriate for me now to waste my time, going over all that. Whoever's interested in all those little details, they can request from TCHC and they can make this PowerPoint available. It's free to be shared with the public. What I want to talk about is the last couple of months. Unfortunately, we had two major incidents in Regent Park, namely two shootings. One was solved very quickly. We were able to apprehend the criminal minutes after it happened. And it was more of a domestic in nature. It was a family situation. However, the last one we had a few days ago at Sackville and Oak, for that one again, we were able to arrest one of the parties involved. There was a group of people that were hanging in the area of Oak and Sackville. One person came with a gun and started shooting at the group. They returned fire. We were able to arrest the person that started the gunfire. He's known to the police. I can't go into details, but he's a resident of Regent Park. However, the other people that returned fire, obviously they had guns on them. They were not identified yet. We're still working on it. We have pretty good information about facial videos and all that, right? I can tell you a lot of these incidents are gang-related. There's a lot of, flexing muscles between gangs from different parts of the city, coming and showing presence in the neighborhood. Unfortunately, we can't prevent everything, but what I can tell you, since we have this program, we have one police car 24/7 dedicated to Regent Park, which no other neighborhood in 51 Division has that. We were able to prevent a lot of violence. As a matter of fact, the last shooting that happened, the car that was dedicated to Regent Park, they were on their lunch break at the station when this happened. So that goes to show when police is present in the neighborhood, usually violent crime doesn't happen, namely shootings and stuff like that. But that goes to show how many people carry guns, That's a little bit disturbing, I'm a little bit surprised that we don't have more people coming to this meeting because we really have advertised it this time, all the condominiums, all the Toronto Community Housing buildings. We had a lot of concerns lately in relation to e-scooters. We had, especially during the Victoria weekend, and we're anticipating during Canada Day, there's going to be the same. A lot of young people on e-scooters going around the neighborhood or on foot shooting fireworks at each other. We were able to investigate quite a few of these kids involved in this incident. What we are asking from the community members, if you see a car stopping and selling fireworks to these kids, please let us know. From a distance, try to take some photos of the license plate, call police, because to my knowledge, children cannot purchase fireworks in Toronto, right? So there are people, there are adults going to these stores, buying fireworks, and then coming and selling them to the young kids who are using them, right? And obviously, as everybody knows, even if there's a holiday, these fireworks can only be used by adults. In certain areas, they're mandated by the city. It's not anywhere you want. Accidents can happen, and a lot of people are distraught and they're upset about the fireworks being used. What I can tell you, what we predicted, I'll answer your question in a few minutes. What we've been talking about these e-scooters for the longest time is that there was not enough legislative ground for us to enforce them. Therefore, everybody's using them. There's no rhyme or reason. Small kids, adults, no helmets, on the sidewalks, on the road, going fast. So we've been talking and we've been saying, like, we're surprised that we don't have more accidents involving these e-scooters, right? They are happening. So what we started, at least me and Farzad for the last couple weeks, we are starting now to enforce. We did a lot of digging, talking to traffic services to give us the legislation. Obviously, under the Highway Traffic Act, we can enforce certain rules of the road, but there's also, we were able to find a couple bylaws that give us grounds to start investigating and stopping these kids now. So I'll tell you a little story. I'm not going to get into details, but a couple days ago, we stopped one of these kids that we know. He's been getting in trouble. He's very young, doing the same thing over the turf at Nelson Mandela. We stopped him, and as you know, now everybody's being recorded. When you have a police interaction, the camera's on, audio and video, right? So it's no more 5 years ago, 10 years ago, oh, police said this, oh, that person said that. No, everything is recorded, so there's no more going around the bushes, right? So this kid goes home, like, we're concerned for his safety. He doesn't have a helmet, he goes over the turf, that, like, I mean, the school spend money, for that, field to be used for soccer and whatnot. So we had, like, a very nice chat, but we told him, like, listen, this can happen. If you fall and you hit your head, you can get brain damage, or you can even die. If you damage the grass, the school might get you in trouble. He goes home and calls the mom. Mom calls us and starts reporting, like, why you guys surrounded my kid? You did this, you did that, right? So obviously that's something that we have to address. But I have to tell you, this is the reaction we're going to start getting, and we anticipated that that's going to happen because, when you don't have strict rules, and that's why hopefully this is one moment when we can start educating people about the rules of the road, like, obviously, just like a bicycle, you cannot have an e-scooter if you're under 16 without a helmet. You cannot ride on the sidewalk. Basically, in Ontario, to our knowledge, e-scooters should be only used on private property, right? But no one is enforcing it yet. However, because a lot of kids in the neighborhood, they're using them to commit this little mischief and little crimes, we have to start stopping people and enforcing it. Because, that's again, our trying to be proactive, but also listening to the concerns from the community. Because after the Victoria weekend, we got a lot of emails and phone calls from community members concerned about this aspect. So I'll let the detective, yeah, 1 second, my partner.
Oh, we had a question, if we can address one question.
I was witnessing that there's a firework, and then I was trying to inform the police officer, but it was like always back and forth, because they transferred to this department, that department, and it's just like, how do I get to a proper department for me to that was my concern, because they were putting a firework in the little kids department last week. I think it was on Friday, I believe. I was trying to inform them, there's fireworks happening. I was trying to, but, you have to do the communication. And then they were trying to, I can't really fed up, to be honest, because I had little kids with me too. I'm like, obviously I'm not going to wait anywhere for that person. I need to take care of them, right? And I had to go home. So I'm like, how do I inform you guys properly without?
Great question. We can definitely address that. So there are 3 different ways you can contact us. One is through the 911, which is an emergency. 2 is the non-emergency, which is 416-808-2222. And the third way, we always encourage, after you make those calls, you can also email us. We have our cards here, we have our contact cards here, and we also have a cell phone. So if we're actually working the week that we're supposed to be working, you can even call us, because we may be just around the corner and be able to actually assist you, answer the call, and be able to help you. So number one, we always say do the proper channels, do either 911 or the non-emergency, and then give us a call. Or if you can't get through the phone call, give us an email, because the emails, we will definitely follow up on the emails, because it's there, we can't ignore it. So those are the best ways to address some of these issues.
So I know there in the community there's a lot of young kids going on scooters, bullying other kids, beating them up and stealing their scooters. Have you guys heard of that?
Yeah, we have a couple of incidents now on file, which we're all, the 2 of us were actually personally investigating it, and we're addressing it, yes, and it involves the school as well. So 100%, I'm not sure if it's exactly what you're talking about, but we do have 2 incidents that have occurred that's very similar to what you're saying, so we're dealing with it right now.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank our friends for talking about what's going on in the neighborhood with regards to fireworks and e-scooters and So my name is Walid Kugari Ali, and I just want to ask for us to think about what we've been doing every single year, and what are we doing differently this year to challenge, for example, how kids, being kids, going around, getting access to fireworks and shooting at each other. Like, I'm wondering if there's a way there could be a safe space which is supervised, right, instead of them, just happening across the neighborhood. Because what I'm worried about is, someone mistaking a firework as a firearm and shooting, an innocent member of our community. That's my greatest fear. When I hear the fireworks go off, it's like I don't want anyone to get hurt. And with regards to e-scooters, I know it's not a very popular topic these days, but City Council hasn't passed bylaws to regulate e-scooters, but they're regulated in other cities, in other jurisdictions. So I'm wondering if our friends at TPS have been in contact with law enforcement in other communities where e-scooters are allowed, and what are the best practices, so that we could learn from those experiences. Because safety is important. If you're not wearing a helmet and you're going on a very fast vehicle, you don't want to get into a bad accident and have a traumatic injury that could affect you for the rest of your life, right? So we want to make sure that everyone feels safe, including young people in our community, and also young adults who use e-scooters. So maybe you could just touch upon those 2 points. Is there something that we could learn from other jurisdictions on how to address these challenges specifically?
I'll just, in terms of the first concern about having a safe space for kids, unfortunately, for the fireworks, the only safe space for them is to be with their guardian, parents, in order to enjoy that. There is no safe space for them to go ahead and shoot at each other because it's just unacceptable, and it's also illegal under the age of 18. And even in downtown area where it's so congested down here, there's really not a safe space where you could just shoot fireworks up in the air here. There's a lot of environmental issues here, so the city has designated areas for public fireworks to enjoy and to watch. At no point the fireworks are there for even adults to shoot at each other or other people. And the minute you start pointing that fireworks at somebody, it is considered a firearm. It will be treated as a firearm incident. And it could certainly harm, maim, or even death. It's possible. And the second concern, I know Mircea has been really digging in hard with the e-scooters, and I'll just pass on to him to answer that.
So actually, this applies to both questions. It all goes down to education, right? That's why the saying in many parts of the world, it says, takes a village to raise a child. Same thing happens here. So from youth workers to police officers to teachers at school to parents at home, everybody has to be on the same page trying to teach these children what's safe and what is not. If I'm a parent and I'm buying an e-scooter to my kid, right? Because sometimes it happens that they have their own money, but I don't know how they would have, 12, 13-year-olds have their own money, and they, going against the parents' knowledge, they go ahead and buy their own e-scooter. If you're a parent and you have a child that you brought in this world and you care for him or her, you are doing a little bit of education. If you don't know how to find those answers, you can always contact the police, or you can contact other figure leaders in the community. Okay, I bought this e-scooter to my kid. How can he or she use it? Where can they go? Do they need a helmet? Like, you have to have these questions in your mind, to tell your child, right? So that's exactly what I told you, what we started to do for the last 2 weeks. Now we are stopping these kids. We are stopping them, and we're not going to enforce anything as of yet. Even though there are offenses that we could enforce, we will not, because we want to give the community a chance to learn what's good and what's not, because for so long, these e-scooters were being sold, they're being sold, but the store where you buy them from, they don't give you a guide. Okay, this is how you should use it. This is what you should do or not. So that's why I'm saying, because we're very concerned of what can happen, and also listening to the concerns of the members of the community, this is what's happening, when we're not present, with these kids on the e-scooters. Now we're starting to stop these kids, talk to them, maybe talk to the parents, and try to educate. And not even what they're used for, because, okay, yeah, I'm shooting fireworks and getting away. No, your safety. You don't have a helmet. These scooters are going 30 kilometers an hour. If you fall off that scooter and hit your head to the curb, it's over, game over. Or you hit somebody, a vulnerable little kid that's walking on a sidewalk, running like two feet away from the parents, and then you come with a e-scooter, and you hit that little kid. You're gonna kill him. An old person that can, using a walker or a cane to walk, you come around the corner and you hit that person falling down to the ground. So we can see so many bad things can happen. And we want to make everybody that's using an e-scooter understand that these are the worries that, and the bad things that can happen. Sorry, Miguel, you had your hand up.
No,
oh, sorry, the lady had.
Thank you very much, Biga.
Thank you very much, everyone, for today's presence. And then I really appreciate the information that you are providing. Two things that I would like to ask you. First, you said the shooting first and that it has happened when the patrolling officers were at the lunchtime and there was no one at the area. You do not have the replacement for that specific timing of the, for example, lunchtime, because I understand the officers also, they need a little bit of the rest, they need to take a little bit of the break. Do you have any, for example, arrangement for those hours, because it can happen at any time? The lunchtime, it should not be actually the excuse for, because the officers were on a lunchtime, okay, the shooting has happened. We understand these areas, somehow it's a little bit vulnerable and a little bit unsafe for everyone. So to maintain that one, that would be good. The second question that I have, thank you very much for the educational part that you brought out for the students. Of course, everybody should do it. I can just name it as a community. They should teach the children, the parents they should teach the children, as well as the schools, as well as the police. But have you ever approached the schools and suggested them to be involved for the educational part to the students before stop them on the street and scare them? Because this type of the approach to the people, especially as a young hood and young children, it could be affecting psychologically that we do not want. I suggest if you can provide some educational programs, maybe once in a week, for the school children with the arrangement of the schools and the police, that would be good. That would provide them this information, and they will get to know what they have to do if they have a scooters. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your question. I'll address the first question first about the staffing model. So what we have is we have a dedicated car 24 hours assigned to Regent Park. So their job is to patrol only Regent Park. They do respond to calls in the area, but their job is to be in Regent Park 24/7. So the issue is we, at any given moment of any given day, are backlogged by 10, 20, 30, sometimes 50 calls. So we can't often replace the person, the two officers who have to go in for their assigned lunch hour. We can't always replace them. So what we try to do is assign lunch hours when there's less chance of calls, when statistically there is less enforcement required and that kind of thing. If we can have officers covering off, we will. They're not the only officers in Regent Park. Keep that in mind too. They're more of a visual deterrent as well as a deterrent in the sense that anyone who wants to come to the area, typically if someone's going to come and try and do a shooting, they're going to probably drive around the area first, and at some point they're going to run into our officers. So that's kind of the model and why it's deterrent, and they will generally stop those cars. But just because they're not in the area where somebody may be, there's other officers. Like we have on the platoons, how many do we put out, like 20 a day? 20 day shift, 20 night shift. So there's lots of officers out there. Typically they're tied up on calls most of the time, but then we've got our neighborhood officers specifically for Regent Park, plus we have community response unit officers. There's typically on any given day 10 of those, and they're on bikes throughout the division. So it's not as if once they go on lunch, it's just a free-for-all in Regent Park. There will be someone here, but we just can't always replace them. It's just, we're doing our best to keep that model going because we have seen the success in suppressing shootings and that type of stuff. So we're going to continue it, but we are short-staffed, as you may know, so it's a stress just to have that one car in the area. Now, with respect to having a community engagement with children to reach out to them, we used to have school liaison officers, and they would do that type of thing. It's a bit touchy now with the schools. They don't always want police officers in the schools. It depends on the principal of the school. Some principals really want us in there. Some don't want to see us at all. What I will tell you, though, is that specifically in Regent Park, Farzad and Mircea have programs that are youth action programs where they teach them weight training. They've done soccer programs, basketball programs, and kind of that's sort of their opportunity. It's not so much a soccer, basketball, weight training program as sort of a life skills lesson. So a lot of the folks that come in don't have access to as much as other kids, and so they get an opportunity to reach out to these kids and give them a little education about things like this, things like fireworks, because a lot of them are being educated by their friends in the community, and so that's why you see the behavior repeating. But this is our opportunity to intervene with them in a safe space, in an environment where they're comfortable with us, and so that's kind of how we're doing it. We don't have a formal training session with them, but we try to do our best to mentor them in those environments. Does that make sense?
Maybe it could be, yes, of course, I understand, but maybe it could be even bylaws enforcement. You can just send to each and every school that they go based on that, and they teach the, students. That would be good if they don't want to see you. I understand, right?
We unfortunately we don't have much say in the curriculum at the school and what they choose to but I mean we do communicate with the schools as much as possible, and I think that message of playing with fireworks, I would assume that the schools are on board with that, and I imagine that they probably have some kind of education going on there, but that has nothing to do with us, and we just hope that the message is being, I think the point he's trying to make is that we just all have to present the same consistent message and get that across. This isn't a policing matter per se as much as a community matter, and we're just doing our part by letting you know we're going to do the enforcement and education part on our end, but we also need that to be played through consistently in the rest of their experiences as they grow up. Just one more topic on the scooters. As much as we have been educating a lot, I have directed my officers to start enforcement going forward in the summertime. So they've been doing their best to educate the kids in the neighborhood, and we would like all you folks to go back and speak to people in your community to let the kids know there will be enforcement going on. Now, will we be giving out tickets to like 8-year-olds? Probably not. However, there will be more enforcement going forward as far as the scooters. So.
Thank you very much. If it would be only a talk, it would be good rather than the ticket, because, yeah.
You know what, we just want to see the behavior end, but sometimes it has to get out there that police are giving tickets for things before people start to realize, oh, maybe I shouldn't do this. Not only that, but it's not just Regent, it's happening citywide, as Waleed mentioned, like it's everywhere. Other communities have had the same issues. The purpose of enforcement is not to generate revenue for the city, and in fact, I don't think that happens. The purpose of enforcement is really education. We've been doing our best with the education component, but as you can see, it's had limited success around the city, so the next step is to engage in more enforcement.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Surya?
Yes, in terms of enforcing, I don't think it's a good idea that relationships that we built throughout the years, it's going to break that cycle. Why don't we have more education?
Yeah.
And instead of creating a video, Regent Park focuses there, and that could reach everybody. And partnering with a social worker in school as well, with the parent counselor in school. You guys have a mentality of enforcing, giving a bill, giving that.
Well, hold on.
Let me
Okay.
finish, sorry. I've been living here so long,
Sure.
and to build a relationship with the neighborhood officers.
Yeah.
And when you have mentality of giving a ticket, and that my son drives scooters.
Yeah.
So they go out, I'm getting foods. Like there's so many fast food here. I know the kids who got hurt from the car by carrying 2 of them in the same scooter. They were in the hospital. But at the same time, that's not what they are thinking. I'm just going to run get a food. This is the kids we are dealing with. And
Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah, as a young, we are start doing a fingerprint, all of that. We are just screw their life. So instead of educating them and have education systems, partner with a lot of agencies and go there and do education pieces that, we're going to do this. I like that. That's not my favorite, but at the same time, I'm here to put my ideas and let's change the mentality of the kids, educating them, go to the school and give them the videos. And this is what it does to you. You got hurt. We have a couple of kids I know, I will connect you, who got hurt and broke leg and that, and show them this is what you're going to get into it. And that is scaring them and break relationships that we built already, and this is what it does to you. They don't have that long thinking, those kids, and show them this is what it does to you. Not always think that they're going to do criminal stuff by getting on the scooters. Yes, here and there, they're going to use those young people. But at the same time, the kids, you just want to run and get fast food. I'm going to just get a drink. It's so fast. It's cool to to ride scooters. Let's do this education videos. You guys are very good at creating videos. This is what it does to you, and educate them and period.
And by the way, I would like to add her sentences that when we were a child, we had the same scooters, we had played, but there was no enforcement in other countries. Why there are always enforcement, ticketing, and as she said, spoiling of their future. This is a really important matter. You people don't think that way, but you don't understand how you spoil the mentality, the future, and really the life of the person, even since childhood. That is really important. The talk is really good, education is good. When 100 times, I just fall from the scooters, even, I have broken my back. Right now, the doctor does not allow me even to use, my bicycles, all right? So, but it doesn't mean that, for example, if the children are on a bicycle or something, they get, really a bad future because of the ticketing. This ticketing absolutely should be banned. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Let me just comment.
Is it on?
There it is. Thank you, and my apologies for my delay. I was at another event before coming here, and I'm actually off to another one shortly. But the micromobility subject matter is a complex one. It was actually at committee earlier, actually we're in June now. It was at committee in May, just last month at ECTEV, and I sit on ECTEV. And so the city brought a report back stating that we should actually not have a pilot project when it comes to micromobility devices, with AKA scooters, for example. And their rationale was that because if we were to actually allow it, then the city would be liable. They're saying that we don't have the proper infrastructure here at the city, in that if we authorize it, then if someone falls on the sidewalk, well, on the street or the bike lane, then they can sue the city. So our legal staff has said to us, do not allow it, which I think is ridiculous, because there are, I'm going to say, at least 100,000 scooters in the city of Toronto. And there is a gap in the system where you could actually purchase a scooter in the city, but you're not allowed to ride it, right? And so I said to my colleagues that putting our heads in the sand is not going to make this problem go away. And I actually voted against not having a pilot project. So again, to be fair to the Toronto Police, they cannot enforce micromobility devices on our streets, right? They mentioned having young children using them. People from ages 5 to 65 use them and up. And really, at this point, it is a losing battle. I have seen people get injured by them. People ride them on the sidewalks. They ride them all over the place, especially when they come to a T intersection. They just go, and I've seen people fall over. They end up in our emergency system or hospitals. It's a huge problem. And I think, perhaps in a year's time, we may have to revisit it again, because it continues to be a problem. Another thing that I disagreed with, when it was brought to committee, was that they wanted to have them licensed for food vendors, for people who do Uber Eats. But for me, that is an equity issue, because we know the people who actually use them for employment are those who are most marginalized. And penalizing those who are already on the periphery is not the right way to go either. So I also voted against that. But it's a complex issue as an equity issue, and I think, again, we need to revisit it, because the problem is not going to go away.
Thank you. And let me just clarify, I should have been more specific, and I apologize for this when I said enforcement. Enforcement is not to say that we're going to ticket people for using scooters. That's not what I'm talking about. But we are going to treat them like bicycles, like vehicles. So for Highway Traffic Act offenses like blowing red lights, dangerous driving, riding on the sidewalk, things that put people at risk, those are the types of things we're going to do enforcement on. I should have been more clear about that. Somebody riding a scooter is not in and of itself something that we are going to enforce. Like the councillor said, there's nothing, we can't do that. But we can enforce the Highway Traffic Act, and things that are unsafe, those are the types of things that we're going to be looking at. I hope that.
And I'll just add on something on top in regards to the education piece. Like Mircea said, the two of us for Regent Park, we're dedicating ourselves this whole entire summer into education. So we will actually communicate. We've already have communicated with Dixon Hall and actually with the community centers that we are looking at this issue and we want to educate that. So we're giving the message to everybody to go ahead and even the young gentleman that we stopped yesterday, we had other friends that were starting to say, go ahead, tell your parents that we're going to be starting educating everybody. So you guys have to treat this as a vehicle just like any other vehicle on the road, and you need to respect the rules of the law. That's what we're going to be doing. We're not going to go ahead right away start writing tickets, because tickets alone is not going to really stop them. What's going to stop them is working together. So that is a big piece off the bat that we're going to be working on. Once that education piece is out there and everyone's on the same page, and we've been telling over and over, if there are going to be situations, every situation is going to be different. If we end up with a situation where we may have to issue a ticket, we will use our discretion, because we do have discretion. And we have to weigh those options. Is it something that is necessary or not necessary? So it's not a blanket statement where we're going to be saying, okay, we're just going to give ticket. And especially with the young people, we're going to be very obviously biased when it comes to young people, because we want the parents to get involved. We want to contact the parents, because why is there a 10-year-old riding an e-scooter at 40 kilometers an hour through the Regent streets when they don't even live in Regent Park? My child does not go more than my arm's length without me yelling at him. That part is very, very important. So we're going to be actually contacting the parents to find out why is this child driving carelessly throughout the streets of downtown Toronto. We have difficulty just even walking, let alone going through with the scooter at 40 kilometers an hour, where the child has no concept of the rules of the road, right? You need to be 16 years old to drive a vehicle, right? So these are the things that we're going to really focus on, and we have some real good relationship with our schools here. We're going to be doing that piece with the education. We're going to push that as well. But essentially, at the end of the day, once we push the message, it's also up to the other organizations to go ahead, take their initiative to make sure that they also educate and enforce those things with the kids, to say, hey, this is a daily reminder. You cannot just tell them once. So you know how the kids are. You have to constantly tell the kids. It's not a 1 or 2 time thing. It's a daily thing that you have to do until they finally understand. Right?
I would suggest you could partner with Regent Park Focus and put that video out as well. The people who are not here, they will watch it and see reminder. This is what's happening. This is the accident that took place in the community. Watch out. We are watching you. That the piece is for your safety. That will help as well.
Miguel?
Thank you, Soraya. Thank you, Alina. Thank you, Walid, for those important comments about the scooters. I'm a big fan of scooters, e-bikes, as you know it. I got 2 e-bikes installed in 2022, but still I love mobility devices, e-energy, anything that is environment friendly. I was at that meeting that Constable Mircea mentioned about, and certainly it's a topic to be considered in the future, finding other alternatives based on other experience in other jurisdictions. So you made an interesting motion at Toronto East York Council, TE 13.37, addressing our crossing at River and Oak. Fantastic, that's wonderful. According to the letter attached to the motion, it says that another spot will be eliminated 20 meters south. Fine, as the advice of the 51 Division. The only inconvenience I have had trouble to communicate with city officials is that they need to install a form of a barrier so that cars do not park on that spot that has been eliminated. I have tried to provide graphics. I had to provide speaking in Espanol so that they get my point. But every time I go and speak to you guys, it's like, huh? Are you talking about oranges or tomatoes, Miguel? I don't understand it. It's simple, my friend. Just go to Yorkville. In Yorkville, they have these amazing planters where they have removed, previous spots for cars. And that's so simple, Yusuf. What is it? I explained it to you also in the past as well. I spent my time explaining to you how important it is to have those barriers. So, because whatever you guys do in regards to enforcement, people will still park. Look at this spot south of the corner, across Sam's store. It was removed. There is a diagonal line, and so the expectation is, drivers are going to respect the diagonal line and they're going to park in there. However, I see cars parked 24 hours, sometimes overnight, on that where it's supposed to be a non-parking zone. Second, this is my comment to the officers. Safety. You mentioned very important topic. In this community, Regent Park, market residents understand the dangers of bringing up to the units scooters, e-bikes, because it's part of the bylaws of the conduct. You're not allowed to do that. Why? Because of the dangers associated with leaving unattended, an e-bike charging on the unit. And secondly, there's a lot of malfunctioning chargers out there that they sell for cheap, as well as batteries for the e-bikes that have been stolen in the community. So what we need is for those who live in TCAC, and I'm speaking as a member of TCAC right now, that we need to have rules in the forms of e-bike / bike policy, because I give you an example, and I'm speaking as a TCAC resident, by the way. Every day I see e-bikes going on the elevator. Every day I see scooters going on the elevator. Every day I see bikes going on the elevator, creating an inconvenience for elders, for people on mobility devices who are disabled. Please, Councilor Morris, as the shareholder of the City of Toronto, you need to encourage TCAC to create policies that will address those dangers associated with fires caused by e-bike batteries explosions. And you do have to follow the model of Metrolinx. Right now, Metrolinx, you cannot bring your e-bike or school or anything unless it's approved e-bike with proper rules about your battery and your chargers. Otherwise, they don't want to have a fire, as it happened in December 2023, where in a sour car, an e-bike exploded. So you see, safety is important. I agree about the issues about riding the scooters on the sidewalks, but at home is important, because I want to sleep and not to wake up at 3 in the morning telling me I have to evacuate the building because a unit caught fire or someone died. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Miguel. That was a mouthful.
I have more.
You can speak to the TCHC piece. Regarding the parking and cars parking in the no parking zone on River Street here, we have spoken to TPS about enforcement, but also too, I know that Yusuf has been talking to traffic services about putting planters there as well. And so that's also in the works. I'm not sure where they're at with that, but Yusuf has been on it, and we have heard you loud and clear. I will have TCAC speak to their property, but I'll say to you though that I sit on TTC, and we're putting policies in place for micromobility devices, aka e-scooters, on our subways and streetcars and buses.
So that's exactly what we're going to say.
Oh, okay.
So Miguel is aware that we are working on the policy. In fact, Miguel actually worked in crafting the policy, I believe it now is maybe a year and a half now, if I'm not mistaken. So it is with the policy department, and that's all I can say right now. There's no further details on that.
Good job, Miguel.
Right.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you very much. In saving time, we have our special guest from Crime Stoppers, Detective Madramootoo, is going to come to the front and do his presentation. If you guys need the bathroom break, there's washrooms just outside. We just need 2 minutes just to set up the computer. Thank you. Without further ado, Detective Madramootoo, I know he's pressed for time. It took us over a year to have him here because he's very, very busy. He runs a very difficult organization he has that, it's not a thing that, that anyone can do, but he's taking his time to come here and give us, even ourselves, education and peace for Crime Stoppers.
Thank you for having me. Again, my name is Marc Madramootoo. I've been with the Toronto Police Service, just completed my 21st year. I see some friendly faces from my teenage years, I would say. Certainly thank you for the invite. Sergeant Boyko, Farzad, and Mircea, thank you for having me here. Yes, it's been quite some time. I know they've always requested for us to come out. Where I am currently is a very small team. It's a lot of work that we do. The one thing that I hear that's a commonality here is collaboration. Without it, our communities will not be safe. And if it's one thing that I can tell you, I hope that this presentation, I'm not a big fan of PowerPoints, but you know what, we'll utilize it as best we can. Community safety is a shared responsibility. We all have a role to play, each and every one of us. Growing up in the city of Toronto, going to school, having friends, working, coming here to play, worship, name it. It's a great city. We're so blessed. You look at all the things that are happening around the world. You should be proud of yourselves for even being here tonight. I know we have a lot of varying ideas and opinions and beliefs, but at the end of the day, what are we all asking for? Safety. We want to be able to enjoy our space, enjoy our time, enjoy our meals, enjoy our functions. Together, we got to do it together. So yes, we're going to have difficult conversations. We're going to agree to disagree on certain things. Not everything can be accomplished, right? You think about our forefathers. You think about the history of things. An idea came forward. It takes time sometimes. We have the counselor here tonight. Guess what? They're listening to your message. They're going to go back and have those difficult conversations. This is one of the reasons why I joined the job, so I can be inside the belly of the organization, to have the difficult conversations, because I know what my family has gone through. I know what my friends have gone through. Why not be in the belly? Someone has to do it. So if there's one thing that I can tell you, be patient. I know it's hard sometimes because we see our friends and loved ones sometimes, they get hurt in the midst of all this, but do believe that these officers, myself, and I could speak for others, I can't speak for everyone, we do have this city's best interest at heart. I always tell my kids, I get up every day, I don't know if I'm going home. We're sacrificing how many hours we work on the street. We don't know if we're going to get to go home. Something drastic happens, guess who's running? I'm going. Everybody else is trying to figure out, we're going. For people we don't even know. I know some of you here, but in a heartbeat, I'll sacrifice for you. How many have heard about Crime Stoppers? Wow, that's good. Believe it or not, I've been to many presentations and no hands. So I hope some of the information that I'm going to share with you is enlightening. If you do have questions, I hope to answer those questions today. If you feel more comfortable at the end of the presentation, you want to connect, give us a phone call, send an email. I will take the time to educate. I will take the time to provide that awareness and bring you up to speed where you're comfortable about the program. Okay? So what is it? We need some participation in here. Anybody, what is Crime Stoppers?
You call them up and they help you apprehend the person that is bad.
All right, this is a stress ball. I like these. I use this a lot. For you? Anybody else? What is Crime Stoppers? What's the program about? Pardon? A tip line. Very good. Anybody else? One more.
I'm going to say it so we can talk about it later. on the perception that it's a snitch line.
It's a snitch line. Okay, perfect. You know what? You're all right.
Well, in my opinion, I think it's just helping somebody that is going through difficulty. That's all I think.
I like it. We're going to cover that. One more.
It's an anonymous, safe opportunity.
Oh, look at you. Thank you. Thanks for the participation, guys. This is actually a video, but we'll skip this over. It talks about the history of Crime Stoppers. So in 1967, a Canadian, Greg McAleese, is actually the founder of this program. They had a gas station robbery in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And at that time, they didn't have any information to help the case move forward. They didn't have any leads. So Mr. McAleese decided to create the Crime Stoppers program. Within 24 hours, over 300 tips came in, and they were able to help solve that incident. Since then, I can tell you this program, yes, Toronto has its chapter, but Crime Stoppers is a global program. It's all around the world. As you can see, specifically to Toronto and our GTA areas, almost every jurisdiction, every police service has a Crime Stopper portfolio. So it's not just specific to Toronto. I always say, I've been with the program now for 3 years, and I always say the things that we do will affect the program globally. I'm here not just to tell you about the program, but I'm also here to learn and listen to you. I'm in a very unique position, myself and the other two that I work with. We get to amplify the voices of the community. The information and the content that comes into this program comes directly from the heart of the community. It's our job to amplify those voices. We understand that some within our community don't feel comfortable having a conversation with a cop. We understand, and I've been on the street, there's a shooting that occurred, I can see that individual over there. They want to talk. They know something. Not the right time or place. Somebody knows. Anything that happens within our city, somebody knows. It's your comfort level of what you want to do. Until it gets into our own backyard, that's when we get a little hinky and a little scared. And then we try to move that needle. History of Toronto Crime Stoppers. 1984, our program began. And currently, the program is nonprofit. It's a charitable organization, not government funded. This program, it was created, and through community partnerships and donations, this is how the program exists. So again, direct funding coming from the community. One of the things that you don't see here is, based on the funding model, and I'll get into the dynamics and the org chart of it. But that's specific, again, for community partners. I didn't realize prior to 3 years how many people, we talked about collaboration, how many people were actually involved in this program. There are many donors, I can tell you, that are anonymous. Funny, the program's anonymous. There are many donors that are anonymous that give funding into this program for our safety. Here's our team currently. Myself, I've got one police officer, and I've got a civilian member for all of Toronto. I can tell you, when I first joined, it took a lot getting used to the type of information, the scope of information. It's very different. My background, I've worked in many areas of the organization. I spent many years at intelligence, handled many confidential sources, but a confidential source is someone who you know. Moving into this program, once you qualify for the program, I don't know who you are. It's very unique. Crime Stoppers just to go back, it's a separate entity of TPS. Again, nonprofit organization. It's its own engine. Toronto Police is a partner to Crime Stoppers. The board itself, the program is run by 8 volunteer civilian members. Ladies and gentlemen, those volunteers don't get paid. I can tell you our current chair, he's volunteered for 21 years. Doing this, why? Our safety. These are unique people that you meet that care. Again, similar to us on the street and working with TPS. They care for people they don't even know. They attend monthly meetings, they advocate for the program, they meet with community stakeholders, they have the difficult conversations, they get funding to better the program each and every day. So how does this program work? Simple. It's a partnership. We talked about collaboration. Partnership between the community, policing or policing partners, and of course, we're not going to get rid of it, social media. Right? So from '84, many may say, you know what, I don't trust the program. Is it real? Is it truly anonymous? Here's some stats. I'm not big on stats, but it's important. It gives you a visual, gives you an understanding of what's happening. From '84, over 190,000 tips received. That's how many arrests were made, how many cases cleared. You can see the stats there. This program, I can tell you, don't just look at arrests and cases cleared and charges laid. It's a program, literally, the 3 of us working, it's like another mini communication center. Someone mentioned it. You can just call in to vent or this, that, and the other. It's not just about arrests and charges. Some people, we talked about awareness and education. Some people are confused. They want some direction as to where I can port my information or who can I contact. Is it 311? Is it 211? Are there other stakeholders or resources? This program is not just connected with policing agencies. We talk about collaboration, policing partners. We may get information about that animal complaint. Am I going to tie up officers when they're needed in your community to go deal with a barking dog? The dog isn't attacking anyone. So, a part of our program, we've connected with animal services. You know what, guys? If you have some time, here's a little complaint. That dog is starving, this, that, and the other. Port the information elsewhere. Collaboration again. Looking at our recent stats. So I arrived in the program 2021. So we went through a little bit of a COVID era. And Farzad and Mircea started this presentation talking about shootings and guns. And we know the impact these things have had. Look at the stats in 2022. Illegal firearms recovered from the program, 89. Could you put a price tag on a gun? It works, folks. It works. Right? Continuously, the arrests made. As you can see, which is very important, they don't have the stat up there. But you can see for last year alone, just over 7,000 tips. There's another stat that's not categorized there. It's called a follow-up. So if an individual, and I'll get to your question in a second, if an individual puts in a tip, we have the ability to have what's called a two-way dialogue to get further information, to verify that you're safe, to verify that your property's safe before that information moves. And that's a follow-up. I can tell you last year alone, we had over 15,000 follow-ups. So when I say the team is working, we literally review about 60 tips per day. Now, some may say that's nothing. A lot of content, a lot of information. We don't have the pleasure of saying, you know what, this one doesn't look good. Let me get rid of it. I'll give you an example of that. I was dealing with a Toronto issue in my first year. Toronto issue. And it was a person in crisis. A tip came in, not for our jurisdiction, another jurisdiction. Finished Toronto's issue, looked at the information, 3 paragraphs, garbage. I couldn't understand it. In the 4th paragraph, 1 line caught my attention. I went back up, I read it, same thing, 3 paragraphs, what is this? 1 line caught my attention. 3rd time I read it, I decided to call that jurisdiction, speak to their dispatcher. What information do you have about this? Started to do my own little queries. Spoke to the officer on scene in that jurisdiction. I said, still didn't feel comfortable because I started digging more. I said, put me through to your staff sergeant. And I said, staff, I don't feel good about this. From what I see, I know it's not ours, and I'm not telling you how to do your job, but can you send a car out to this location, this time, on this day? Fast forward, weekend goes by, get back in the office on Monday. I decide to call that jurisdiction. Hey, what happened with that tip? You know what? Thank goodness you did what you did. It saved a life. I could have easily said 3 paragraphs of garbage, ignored it, doesn't belong to Toronto. But that's the passion and devotion. I can speak on behalf of my team because they carry what I carry. So currently, as we know it, if something were to happen, we have a couple of options. And there's just one thing that I want you to take away from here, is to know that there is a 3rd option. If something happens, non-emergency, Farzad mentioned it. Or if it's exigent, what are we going to do? We're going to do a sensible thing of dialing 911. We need immediate help. Your 3rd option is Crime Stoppers. You qualify, and we'll talk about that, what it means if you qualify. You can file a report, whether you call in or whether you do it online. How many have tried to call the police recently? Non-emergency.
I didn't call, but I approached them, but I did not get the very...
How long's the wait?
Yes.
Right, it's a long time.
I did not get the very good response.
They're working on it. So how does this program work? I know you have a question. Is it pressing or can we wait?
I just feel guilty now, what you're saying. Yeah, there is the stuff that took place a month ago that like, they don't want to call the police and I didn't have, I heard about you guys, but no clue of, it didn't come in my mind calling you.
Okay, so let me get through a little bit, talk a bit more, and then we can, okay? So how does this program work? I said you can call in or you can put in a web tip. If you were to call in, we have designated call takers that will pick up the phone. If you were to call right now, they'll pick up the phone. They will not ask you for your name, a phone number, an address, no identifiers. If they ask you for that, hang up the phone. Okay? When you call in, your number is blanked out. It's protected. And I can tell you that because I myself, joining this program, I visited the call center. Okay, give me 1 second. Same with a web tip. You're not obliged to provide any contact information or your name. I personally don't want to know who you are. That's going to give me many days in court if that happens. And it's going to put your safety at risk. Okay, let's say information came in. You decide to call today. You know, I reside at this location, and there's a gentleman at such and such who's believed to be dealing drugs. Here's a phone number, here's a description, here's a name, here's a car that they drive on. The type of information that a dispatcher or the call taker will ask is very similar to if you were to call 911. Who, what, where, when, why, and how. In addition to weapons. Why we ask for weapons? If the information gets sent out, these individuals have to go respond and investigate. It's a public safety issue. We want to know if there's weapons there. Is there a bomb there? Is there a gun there? Is there knives? Is this person violent? That's important. It's important for the community. We should know that at this house or this residence, there might be some issues over here, right? The information gets sanitized. So you provide your information, and let's say, by mistake, you decide to say, you know what, I live right beside my neighbor who deals drugs. That comes into us. I will never, or the team will never, risk anyone's safety for the sake of a charge or an arrest. There's always another way to find out who did it. You just got to work a little harder. But from us, we will never sacrifice anyone's safety for the sake of an arrest. We talked about a two-way dialogue. I will hit back. I will sanitize that information to say a resident at so-and-so is believed to be dealing drugs, not my neighbor. So clean it. This is why we talk about the sanitization process. If information comes in with any identifiers, and there are questions that you will be asked by the call taker, or if you put in a web tip, it's called risk factors. You will get to a spot in submitting your information, and it will ask you, is there any risk to your safety with submitting this information? And it will have options of none. So if it's, you just randomly want to report information that you see happening within your community or your neighborhood, remember these guys, we talked about that 24-hour car and that 1 hour that they were on lunch. They're not there 24 hours a day. We live in our own communities. We know the pulse. We see what's going on. The more information we share, remember what this program is set out to be. It's meant to be a lead. It's meant, collaboration again. You're helping your officers. It's talking about community policing. Remember the principles of Sir Robert Peel, who started this. The police are the public, and the public are who? The police. Right? This is where the program comes in. So again, you're providing information. If it shows that it's going to be a threat to your safety, your property, or your family, that information is not being moved from us until you clarify that no, it's okay to share this with an officer or an investigator for them to review it more. There's no, because some people misunderstand when they get there. As we move to the next area, after sanitization, that information is now shared with an investigator or policing partner for them to take a look at it. Again, it may not equate to an arrest or a charge. It may equate to just a conversation or a visit. Maybe someone's venting about a traffic issue. Maybe they're venting about scooters. Maybe it's just, officer safety, officer presence. It's just a request coming through. Again, not everything leads to an arrest or charge. When that's finished, the officers get it. There's a disposition that comes with the investigation, with the information that comes in. And that tells us this was addressed. In some instances, I can tell you, information comes in, you may not qualify to use the program, and we'll get into that. The last hour that you see here is the Community Rewards Program. And I know many individuals were talking about education campaigns or different programs, et cetera, et cetera. So Toronto, in 2020, as we know, Crime Stoppers, generally you submit a tip. If the information is fruitful, it equates to a reward. And that denomination may vary. Let's say it's a theft. Someone was arrested and charged, or the information was fruitful. It may equate to $50 or $100, whatever the scale determines. In 2020, Toronto changed that. They stopped paying out individual rewards, and they turned that into a community reward. How many remember many summers ago the 2 little girls that were shot in Scarborough, the sisters? Okay, so to give you an idea of how that program worked, the second suspect, Crime Stoppers was instrumental in helping to catch that person. So instead of the sole tipster benefiting, what they did, they got together with who? Community stakeholders and their partners. They went to that location where that incident occurred, a negative incident, a very bad incident. They refurbished the parquet. They made it more accessible to the residents living in that community. They did an awareness campaign of how to report criminality and taught them about certain crimes and trends and tendencies. They also provided hero sweaters for all the young kids that were living there, give back to community, and provided lunch. So instead of one person being the sole benefactor, the entire community benefits from a negative situation. So this is why Toronto has moved forward with a community reward program. Now it's still under review. Personally, I would like to see a dual system. Because someone's taking the time to give you information. Respect that. We do have the option, like I said, as an officer, if I can see information is very fruitful, I will offer, would you like to speak to an investigator? Because that person can ultimately become a confidential source of the Toronto Police. But do remember, the difference is, as a confidential source of the Toronto Police Service, someone knows who you are. If you qualify for this program, I don't know who you are.
A quick question. You said it switched to a community rewards program. Has that had an impact on incentives? Like, have you seen a change in who gets to report it, or has that had any impact?
I can tell you, for 3 years that I've been here, we've done this. I can see the type of information that's coming in. I think the narrative is shifting. I think the awareness is building. We're working against time. We're patient with it. We can't get to every community as we would want to. I think it does have an impact. Last year alone, the program, I think, spent or put back into the community close to $40,000. And this was, for example, one of the projects that they did was in 14 Division. The area within 14, a lot of drugs. We're having a lot of issues with drugs. Needles everywhere, the parquets were just a mess. So 2 neighborhood officers approached, they applied. We'd like to clean this up, we'd like to put some murals up, we'd like to make it livable and enjoyable to our residents. Officers came forward, they asked for a donation. That application went to the board, they approved, and it was fantastic. It's still running. Now residents can go and enjoy that area. So we're not saying that every application is going to be approved, but it's taking those measures to put back into the community. Other campaigns that they did, hate crime, a gun campaign, firearms, and these are things that we're acting on, again. Stolen vehicles were topical. Did another campaign in that end. Again, education and awareness. So it's things that are topical. We're talking about scooters. I hear a lot of things or concerns about scooters. We're talking about education. Okay, maybe that's a campaign. We'll leave it to your Regent Park officers to come up with a plan and an idea. They can certainly send in an application to help fund, to help support, to get more stakeholders, to build on the ideas that you have. Right? Sorry to ignore your question. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, thank you for a wonderful presentation. So I understand that you don't provide with a ticket or a reference number once you have received information about a particular crime in your building or in your community.
So hold that thought. So in regards to a ticket number or a reference number, I'll take you back. Once you submit that tip, you will be provided a unique tip number and a password. That you don't share with anybody.
Okay, so TCSC, my landlord, has an internal priority crisis transfer list or process. It requires that you have to submit a police report. And now they're saying, according to the Human Rights Policy Review, you don't have to submit a police report number. So is that information up to date? Because right now TCAC is undergoing a whole review of the internal human rights complaint process. So will it be including the number from the 211,
Crime Stop? So my suggestion, and we talked about this being a global program, and we talked about the safety of our members in our community. This program is meant to be anonymous. So if you elect, and there will be a disclaimer when you submit a tip to advise you, you are not to share your tip number or your password with anyone or any organization.
Good to know.
We really pride ourselves on being anonymous. We want to respect the fact that an individual has taken the time to come forward with information that is sensitive, that we don't want to get out anywhere. I can tell you, the courts, some have made the mistake to say, I provided a tip. And when that has gone through the channel, nothing is disclosed to them. I've seen it myself. We vetted it. It's all blacked out. Because I will never sacrifice someone's life for the sake of what? An arrest or a charge. There's always another way. So if you elect, as a user of the program, to put your hand up and say, look at me, I'm the cool dude on the block. I just helped get that guy arrested, or girl. You're doing yourself an injustice, right? Your information stays with me, stays with our program, and that's where it belongs. No one else needs to know. Again, I don't know who you are. And if you were to call in and I speak to you, I go to court, and defense says, well, was it male or female? Well, what does a male sound like? What does a female sound like? I've never met you. I don't know who you are. All I can testify to is that, yes, information exists about X, Y, and Z. Understand, the information that comes in to our program is no different than if you were to pick up the phone right now and you were to call the non-emergency number or 911. A call taker would get that information and now dispatch it. Let's say it's 51 Division. A car or an officer still has to go there to do what? Corroborate the information. It's no different than information coming in through Crime Stoppers. It goes to a division or a support unit. What do they have to do? We call it facts and issue. Constellation of factors. They have to corroborate the information. So although you submitted a tip to say that there's a drug dealer at unit so-and-so, that information still has to be corroborated. You just can't go arrest somebody based on you saying or believing that drug dealing is occurring over there.
Follow-up question. Do you work with Victim Services Toronto?
As an ancillary unit, in some cases. Victim Services is very different. We don't have the pleasure, even if a case is solved, to say, look at us. It was a tip that led to that arrest. We don't like doing that. Because that can bring some heat to certain people. So a lot of what you see, and you saw some of the stats there, and most recently, you would have seen, we talk about stakeholders. Who's heard of the BOLO program? The top 25 wanted persons in Canada. It's been a very successful program. And I can tell you, we are a partner to BOLO. There's a reason for that. Right? So, like I always tell people, you know, there's a lot of uncertainty Oh, the police are still involved. Remember I said we're a partner to the program? There's a reason why they have myself and the two others from TPS, because think of my experience, 21 years, I've been around, worked in many divisions, worked in many units. I see information coming in. We know what channels and where to port that information, how to deal with sensitive information. If we were to have our 8 board members, civilians, now try to deal with some of that information, I guarantee you the result might be different. There's a reason why we sit at the table. Pressing question.
Yeah, so the community member, just this is example, I would get a call saying that there is a gun, we want to give away, that's it, whatever. They don't want to call the police. So we call you, do you come and take the gun, or do you steal the police involved?
So this is an actual firearm that someone wants to hand over?
Yes.
So you would, if it's information about someone having a gun, an illegal firearm,
They want to give away, that's it.
I would say you contact the division.
I see. They don't want to contact the police. They want to be anonymous to hand it, whatever, the gun. Do they gonna ask them? Are they gonna ask them a question like, where did this come from? Where do you got it? Like, is there more or whatever it is?
Right. And this is something, again, we have how many officers here? Connected officers, neighborhood officers. This is how you build a relation with them, to work through.
Sir has a good point, because youth back in the day, I remember this, the youth at UFT, York, they all came together, it was some of the gun. And they had
Yes.
this amazing program.
And they were giving out,
Exactly,
yes.
the iPod, I can't remember the
Yep.
iPods, but you could return them, like, we helped collect a lot of guns off the streets, and I remember Kofi Hope was involved with that, and there was a lot of national recognition by then Prime Minister Paul Martin. So my question is, do you support that effort? So for example, if we have youth workers in our community who are in contact with at-risk youth, who might know
Right.
of a
Right.
firearm that was involved in a crime, but don't want to go to the police because they're worried about the consequences of that.
Right.
They want that
Anonymity.
Yeah.
Yep.
So how do we get
So one thing, if there's a youth worker that can advocate on behalf of that community member, that's probably a good way for them to hand in that information. What I would suggest is contact the division to have that conversation. We are seeking anonymity. Even if you were to call the non-emergency number to say, you know what, there's found property, or someone wants to report or hand in a firearm, but they want to remain anonymous, the dispatcher will put that in. It's for the officers to use their discretion when they get that information. You know what? It's a gun off the street. Again,
Yeah, exactly.
it's a gun off the street. I think any sensible officer would go to the extremes to say, obviously, you're going to look at the information. You don't know if that's a crime gun. I'm sure they're going to take some measures to say this, that, and the other. And that's some of the risks that they would think of. You know what? Okay, a gun is coming. Who does it belong to? Like, is there a history with this thing? You know, they might want to put a name to it, this and that. But you can certainly stress that. In terms of our program, in terms of firearm campaign, we have discussed that. In creating, as you know, now it's a community reward, we have discussed, you know what, given the recent shootings, maybe for 30 days, we come up with a campaign. If you want to hand in a firearm, you have that anonymity. So we are working towards that. So these are things that, again, we have in this discussion. There's a need, right? Question?
So the police station is about access to information. And I can, at some point, have a conversation with you folks about measures that you can act to ensure that that can happen. There is, at the back end, my experience is in, at the back end, the guns, if they have a history, there is some tangible pieces around that that have to be mitigated. But I can share my experience from the initial program that we did out of 51. There was a
Yeah.
so we can talk about this, if people are interested in creating a kind of team way about
It was from the parents that the call that came to
Right.
me, and I said, okay, like I don't Now you still have to go to the police to.
Right,
Yeah.
but there is a possibility. Again, it's conversation. You have officers here. If there's a need,
Yeah.
right? And we have to develop an awareness piece or a campaign, 30 days, 60 days, whatever, over the summer months.
Yep.
What a great initiative, right? Say, can you guys have some conversations? Like, can this actually be done? Push that narrative. And it's not just, when we do something like that, we just don't think of 51 Division. Remember, folks, crime is transient. Whatever is happening here, right? And think of the individuals involved in criminality. They're connected. They're connected through what? I just said social media.
Yeah, thank you very much for all the information. I would like to know, we are just talking about the gun. What about the other type of the crime, like, for example, if it is a different type of a trafficking that we heard about it? For example, tax frauds, you know.
Sure.
For example, a little bit of the, drugs maybe, in between, or
Sure.
maybe I can say the group, as a swingers that they are dealing with all these things. What about those?
So I can tell you, since sitting in this program, every type of crime that you can think of, I've seen it. A report on that. So it's from a minor theft to terrorism. I've seen it. So the important piece, again, the police aren't always going to be in every area and everywhere. Back up a few slides. We looked at this. And why I highlighted the guns, and even up to last year. So we talked about auto theft. So look at the numbers before. It's the last line. There weren't many being recovered. 42 last year. Almost $4 million in auto thefts. So someone asked about the program. We like to say we're trending with the community. We are listening. Again, I mentioned, we amplify the voices of the community. So if we're out here giving the information, what does that show you? We're trending, right?
Right, perfect. But for example, if the person who is reporting, this type of a crime, they are not 100% sure, because as a person, they do not have the evidence, right?
Right.
The same way that is happening when we are going into the 51 division that I wanted to report something, and really the attitude of the officer on duty at that day, he has put, his both hands, and he just leaned toward me and said, "This is a big accusation. Do you have any proof?" And I just backed up. I said, "Okay, fine. Just keep quiet and don't say anything. Ignore whatever you saw." This type of attitude, and if you want to get involved, definitely nobody likes it. So I want to know, for example, if you are reporting, but you do not have the proof, we want you people to dig into the matter and find it out, that what is the exact is going on. Because maybe we saw something, we heard something, but we want to be sure. But what about those? It would be, against us as an accusation, as the police in the show.
So I can't speak for every officer and how they conduct their investigations. What I did say was, if you were to call for, a non-emergency or the emergency line, and information comes in, that information is shared with an officer or an investigator, and it's for them to answer what, who, what, where, when, why, and how, in order to further their investigation or lay a charge. It's no different than information coming here. They have to take the same approach. It has to be looked at, and if there's no grounds to lay a charge, you can't lay a charge, right? So it has to be investigated.
But it will be the investigation, and it will be dig into that. But the person that who reported, for example, they are sure 60%, 70% out of the 100, right? They are not sure, but they heard it as a responsible citizenship,
Sure.
Citizen, they feel responsibility to report it. So if they report, they will not be under a question that how this person could report, and they have provided the name, telephone number of these people, their connections, where they are, because, you know, for example, somebody knows about the gang, that something is happening,
Right.
and they heard, they saw something,
Yep.
but they are not sure because they are not in that gang, right?
So remember, it's meant to be a lead. And maybe the information, let's say that you reported, let's say it's, you know, tonight, there was a suspicious vehicle that was at Oak. And I have a partial plate. And it was at this time. Half an hour later, there was a shooting just down the street. That information is crucial. Because what does that do for the officers? Oh, somebody put in a report at this time with a partial plate matching the same description, tells the officer, I need to get over there, look for some cameras, identify some witnesses, to do what? Help further the investigation. So when you think that your information is not valuable, it may have a different meaning to an officer or the scope of the entire investigation. So it's not for us as the community to judge whether or not we have a full case to present. The information may be partial. Again, information is utilized as a lead to help do what? Build an investigation.
I understand your point, but maybe I'm not much clear. For example, if we are providing numbers, the name of the people, it will not go against the person who is reported because we are not 100% sure, but we know something is going on. I'm talking about the person who is reporting because I don't want the people will be responsible because they report and there was nothing and then they get back to the person how you could report those.
Right.
These are some sort of,
So,
you know, as they said, okay, this is accusation, you know,
right.
that you are making it.
Again, no one knows who you are. The program is meant to be anonymous. But if you clicked off that, you know what, there's a risk when you submit this information to your safety, that information is not going to be shared until you clarify that you're okay to share that information without you being known or suspected of providing the information. If you're the only one that knows that information, you had an intimate conversation about someone that just murdered someone, and you're the only one that knows that information, and you've told me that, I'm not sharing that information, because what? That person's going to know, the suspect's going to know that you are the only one that they had a conversation with. Right?
Yeah, right, absolutely. Thank you.
Then you have some corruption.
Oh, believe it or not,
Police always involved with gun stuff.
corruption?
Yeah.
I mean, that's an everyday, that can happen.
I mean, the head of the police or officer.
I think the fair assumption would be, again, I don't know who provides the tip information. No different than if it's an officer or a member of the public, people will try to use the program for malicious reasons. Right? We know that.
Yeah, one time, a long time, I watched a movie, American movie, and the police officer, you see, he found corruption in his department. You know, those are,
Yeah.
he found it, it's a story. And then, maybe it's a real story, and then at the end, the ministry,
Yeah.
Al Pacino, I think, was then they sent him to Swiss.
Yeah.
But they are worried about his life, that somebody will shoot them to make him say this. And I have an example. So when you don't admit or you don't see something weird, I think there is something wrong.
Yeah. Certainly, certainly.
This does not motivate humanity now. Maybe they see something wrong, and this is okay, I don't want to have a headache.
Yeah.
Or the police, or I'm worried about my family, about
Yeah, corruption's real, and I would hope information coming in,
what do you do with
you're doing it for the right reasons. I would hope those are submitting information. Again, what did we talk about? We all have community is a shared responsibility. Safety is a shared responsibility through community members. And I would hope those utilizing the program or deciding to call the non-emergency, that's something I can't prevent. I can't control someone who wants to be corrupt. Yeah, it exists. It exists.
Corrupted because of money?
Yes, absolutely.
The Supreme Court. They talk about the corruption of the Supreme Court.
So if we can hold the questions, I've got just a couple more slides, and I promise I will get to you. We talked about qualifying for the program, so there's specifics when utilizing the program. You cannot be a victim, you cannot be a suspect, material witness, or again what? Identify yourself. Believe it or not, we've had suspects provide information into the program to do what? You mentioned a little bit of corruption, to deter or send the officers in another direction.
Yeah,
right?
they are. The criminals are smart.
So I can tell you, and the big question is anonymity, right? If someone were to send in a web tip, we all know it has what, an IP address. And God forbid, someone decides, and I get a tip, I'm gonna go blow up the CN Tower right now. I asked a question to you, would you wanna know who that is? I'm gonna go blow up the CN Tower right now. Is that a public safety threat? To many of us who might wanna be down there taking photos and enjoying the day. Let's back up. Do they qualify for this program? Remember, I'm gonna go blow up the CN Tower. What are they? So based on the information coming in, they don't qualify for this program. It's a very high threshold that we have to submit to, at minimum, if it's a web tip, to get the IP address, to determine where this information is coming from, if there's a follow-up. I can tell you, prior to my role with the program, there was a death threat on one of our members, a death threat on one of our officers. And it was real. Again, that person's a suspect. It was direct. I'm gonna do this at this time, on this day, over here. Intervened, found out who that person is. Again, qualifying for the program. You cannot be a victim. If you're a victim, we are going to provide a response to you to let you know that you are a victim. Here's where you need to report your information. Here are the channels that you can do. That's now on you to take those steps to get some help. Whether it's through the police, whether it's through a local resource within from 211 or 311, we will try to help you resolve your issue or concern. When you qualify for the program, anonymity is guaranteed. I already told you. With the BOLO program, you saw the numbers, how many persons were arrested, how many people utilized the program. Those individuals, their anonymity was guaranteed. They never had to testify. No one knows who they are. You're the only one that knows that you submitted that information. Some of the other things that we've seen that we would like to go citywide with, because of the shootings, the Northwest Corridor, a few years ago, was experiencing a high volume of shootings. We would like to bring some street signs, you know, like the 40 kilometers, 60 kilometers. High visibility within our community. I'd like to see this go citywide in our busy areas to remind our residents that guess what? It's not just a non-emergency, an emergency line. You do have an option if you want to use it. No one's telling you that you have to use the program. But do remember, it's there as an option for you. How do you contact us? Here's our phone numbers. And that's our website. When you go on the website, see that little red button? It's so easy. You click on it, it brings you right to the form. And it's just fill in the blanks. That's how easy it is. You fill in the blanks, or if you make that phone call, what are you going to get? You're going to get a unique tip number, and you're going to get a password. That password allows you to sign back in, because I guarantee you, 99% of tips that come in, I have questions. And I have questions to help our investigators. Again, who, what, where, when, why, and how, and weapons. Okay, we've got a few questions. Let me go from here, and then I'll come back.
Okay, this is mainly for the young lady, or the lady over there. A few years back, I have, first of all, I'm a recovering addict. Okay, I've been clean a long time.
Congratulations.
Okay. I had an incident where I had drug dealers living on my floor.
Okay.
I went to different meetings, all kinds of meetings. I reported it over and over and over and over again. Finally, I went to the police and I talked with them. And they remember this, right? And I worked with them, and I worked with TCH. The gentleman was arrested, and he's no longer living in the building on my floor. So now I feel safe with my recovery, because I don't have a light up outside my door waiting for the drug dealer to open the door. So,
Very good.
works. The system works.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Very good. Miguel?
Go ahead, Willie, go ahead.
Okay, I'll ask this question. I just want to go back to Ali's point because it was resonated with me.
Okay.
Specifically, I had youth approach me. I won't forget this incident. They were, I guess, dealers. They dealt with drugs, and one of them, I think, was on a streetcar, and they were pulled over by a police vehicle. And one of them was arrested, the other one was let go to send us a message, right? So, and the person came to me out of fear. It's like, I don't know what to do. And I talked to a city staff, and they're like, well, this is complicated. Like, I don't know how to best advise you on this. And when you went through those slides, it reminded me that if you're a victim, you can't call. So where do you go to? Where do you go?
So,
Right? I feel bad because I feel like I failed this person.
Right.
Because they may have had some very important information, that could be, important to another investigation, but they didn't know where to turn to, and I didn't know how to help them.
Right.
Because if they went straight, to
Right.
that wasn't an option. Right?
And again,
Like that was her sort of, sort of advice. You just go to the police directly, talk to them about issues. What if you can't?
what if you can? Right. And so there are platforms, or there are other stakeholders within the community that's set up. If it's an intake, and if from what I'm hearing, I think it's maybe a complaint or borderline, we're going in that route. There's certainly avenues which the division should be giving that information as to where you can port that information. And I know specifically for example, the OIPRD, you need a complainant.
But they're very worried about their person's.
Right, and that,
If my friend could be arrested next to me and put to jail with stuff made up about, and they didn't have anything on them, what would happen to my
and this is the line I say, it's no different than if we're dealing with corruption or if we're dealing with any sort of criminality. It's up to the individuals. We all live within our communities, and we all have to value that threshold. Am I going to share this? And it's the toughest decision to make, because you're dealing with it. Let's say it involves a youth. Okay, am I really going to report this? You're going to battle with it. Am I going to report this because now this individual is going to go get arrested? We're taking them off the street. We're incarcerating them with whom? Who's teaching them now? So this is something that we, as parents, as friends, as family, we struggle with, including police officers. We see someone that may be on the cusp. It's like, when is the right time to intervene? I heard before the conversation, and it's like, do we charge them? Do we do this? Do we do that? I always tell people, when we go to Pearson Airport, if we're leaving this country, there are certain rules and guidelines that we must follow. And if we don't, what happens? They turn you away. From yay high, I knew not to touch a stove. Because there's going to be what? A consequence. So as we grow, and we're within our community, certain things that we do, when I heard, sadly, there was an accident with a scooter, it's terrible. But the bigger question, what are we using that mode of transportation for? I heard great things like we want to get food. It's our job, it's our livelihood. Fantastic. But we're talking about that small percentage that's doing what? So these are the tough conversations that I said that needs to be had, right?
One final question is regarding governance. You mentioned that this is a community funded, that raises its own funds, and it has a board meetings.
Yes.
Are they public?
So the board meetings aren't public. The board meetings occur with the board. I can tell you that board, they do have governance. They get audited to see where the financials go. But those meetings aren't public. I can tell you when they do their awareness campaigns, it's a great way to get involved. For example, if they're doing one here in 51 Division, I would invite and implore the more residents that we have, if you see any one of our campaigns come up, come out. This is how we learn of what we need to do. This is how we know of what needs to be done, because it's coming directly from you. Right? It's not me sitting there or a board member coming up with ideas to say, this is how, it's not a dictatorship. We're not trying to implore things on you to say, this is what you got to do. Yes, we'll provide some guidelines, but I think having this, having a two-way dialogue, helps us to what? Evolve. And from my time sitting with the program, 3 years to now, I can tell you there's not a day that goes by that we're not looking to improve or learn or evolve. Okay? Question?
I think the policemen, they mentioned that, for example, when they talked about the fireworks, that the police, they are doing the job, the school, the family, the parents, all of them as one unit.
Yep.
To focus on something which is to stop.
That's right.
But I think that this is what the society, whether it's police, justice system, employment, politics, well, is one. So there is one corruption in one society, it will affect.
Absolutely. Yep.
It has bad, it will have bad. And there's all the elements are working good, then also the whole will benefit.
Yes.
From this. So I think that the values, which is the dignity, respect,
Yes.
soft skills,
Yep.
should be focused on, because this give a good result to all, the society, the police, the school, the parents.
Consistency is key, right? Even if you've met some challenges, I think if you're consistent with your message and your approach, at the end, you'll get there. Go ahead.
Yes, you have mentioned that anonymity will be served over there. So, for example, the person is a victim of the things, but they know 100%, right? I heard, that the other way of the approach. But if, for example, they approach this line and they want to report it, but they don't mention that they are a victim. So how you can figure out that the person is a victim or not, but they want to report it. So
Right.
what about those?
So that's the investigators. If they don't have sufficient information based on what was reported, no different than a radio call coming in, and they don't have a victim, in some cases, they may need a victim to move forward with a charge. then that information will stay until a victim comes forward. If we can identify that you are a victim, we will inform you that in order to proceed, if you're looking for criminal charges, here's some avenues you might want to take. And we leave that up to the individual.
Thank you.
I think that's it for me.
All right, folks. That will conclude yet again another neighborhood community officer quarterly meeting. So the next quarterly meeting is, off the top of my head, I don't remember, but it will be in the fall time. So at that time, they'll look out for it. We'll make sure that we get the coordination out. We'll get the communication out too. So y'all have a safe and great evening. Enjoy the rest of the weather, man.
You are so informative.
He's going to the city, by the way.
Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow our social media platforms. And for more information, please visit our website.